Hello and welcome to my channel, I Win to Lose Gaming. Here we go, Flins is finally out on the North American servers. Well, I guess technically that's not really true. He came out yesterday as of recording this video. And also, you know, for once I decided to prioritize my sleep instead of, gambling in a gacha game and what has my life become. Because of that, I already put out a couple Flyn's videos, but this one, I figured we would take a look at him on the actual live release. It always feels a little bit different using him on live versus the creator experience server. And does this thing actually despawn on its own, or can you actually sit on either side? Oh my gosh, the little cat buddy will sit on either side. That is so adorable. Anyway, we got a little distracted by this thing. Let's go ahead and take a look at my Flins. Of course, we're going to start off at Constellation 0, and probably by the end of this video, we will end up at Constellation 6. I won't be going through each constellation, but you know, I'm going to first use him at Constellation 0, like more free-to-play accessible levels, and then we're going to build him up all the way to see what a mega whale Flins is capable of, hopefully by the end. And not only that, but we will also be going through Ino's Constellation 1 as well as Constellation 6 really quick. Unlucky to not get our Constellation 1. And yeah, so let's go ahead and start off by taking a look at my Flins. His crit ratio is not the best right now. He's using the Missive Wind Spear with the 4-piece Night of the Skies Unveiling. I will remember the name of that someday without having to read it, but definitely takes me a while. As for the Missive Wind Spear, not only is it cool because it's got a bird on it, but also this thing is a bit worse than the free-to-play craftable Prospector Shovel, so I feel like this is a reasonable weapon for me to use, even though, you know, it's mainly Genshin boomers at this point that have this weapon, honestly. How long ago did this thing come out? But either way, it feels like it's been forever, so yeah, don't worry though, there are better free-to-play friendly alternatives than this thing. Then we have his artifacts. Some of them are pretty good, like this piece is pretty solid, but then we've got a couple of pretty copium pieces right here. In terms of the crit value, it is not great, not the worst though, so you know, it's okay, it's usable. Then we have his constellations. Of course, he's starting at Constellation 0, but I did pull C6R5 for him off stream. His talents are at 9, 10, and 10. Highly recommend crowning his burst. I don't really recommend crowning his skill, but I did since I'm a whale and I've wasted so much money. Then we have a standard official Favonius build with the 4-piece Tenacity of the Millilith. We've got Sucrose with the standard Thrilling Tales build with the 4-piece Virtus Inventor. And then we have Ino with a standard crit focus Favonius build with the 4-piece Silken Moons Serenade. All very usable. Of course, she's starting off at Constellation 0, and we will escalate this up to Constellation 6, and her talents are 6, 9, and 9. And what we will be going through in this video, we're going to be going through some tests really quick against the Robot Chicken with Ino's constellations. And then after that, an Abyss 12 run that I did with him, because the Abyss 12, you know, that's available on the Creator Experience server isn't reflective of the live version. So I always find that to be a little bit interesting. And after that, we also have Stygian Onslaught, which unfortunately I forgot to get to by time, you know, poof. And assuming I don't edit this out, we're going to have some C6R5 level 100 max power Flins as well. Go ahead and I guess just get right into it. We're going to go ahead and see how he feels with this build right here. And, okay. Gonna have to figure out the timing on this. Okay, so we've got a 238,000 crit right there. And hopefully we get the crits here and we are indeed able to one cycle the Robot Chicken here pretty effortlessly. And let's go ahead and take a look at how much his damage increases with Ino. Really quick, we're gonna activate her Constellation 1. This one, of course, provides 80 elemental mastery to your team, which is great. Oh my gosh, this thing's even got a cat butt sticking out of the screen. Okay. I wasn't expecting to get fully mooned by a cat here. So it doesn't even have a little butt. It's got a little butthole. Look at that. Enough buttholes. Let's go ahead and get back to harassing our Robot Chicken friend here. So let's go ahead. 250,054 damage. We've gotten pretty lucky with the crits, which is nice. And there we go. So yeah, definitely a noticeable increase to Flynn's damage output here. Let's go ahead and activate the rest of Ino's constellations. Constellation 6 is where it's at, which basically just adds 35% lunar charged damage to Flins. So let's go ahead and give that one a quick try. And we have to look at more cat buttholes in the meantime. There we go. So we'll just pop our stuff like this. Okay. 276,000. We missed that first crit though, so it might be a little awkward. Yeah, 276,000. That was roughly what I expected based on, you know, if you watched my banner poll guide video. While we're at it, why don't we actually upgrade his team a little bit? Let's go ahead and give him his signature weapon, the Blood-Soaked Runes at Refinement 1. And we will also upgrade Official to a Constellation 6 Auroron. For Auroron, we actually want to switch him over to the Noblesse Oblige here. So this puts him at these stats right here. A reasonable Auroron build. Now keep in mind that at Constellation 6, he does indeed provide some attack percent here. And let's go ahead and give this a try against a much more durable target this time. Our gopher friend. So here we go, and we even have Ino conveniently. I should have opened up with a super rotation actually. Whoa, 336,000 damage already. Pretty decent. Where did he go? Oh, there he is. Okay, it's always a little awkward when you struggle to find the little gopher guy. Yeah, so looks like Auroron's energy is in pretty good shape. Okay, and we're even going to go for the super rotation here. Perhaps not the best idea. I don't think we're going to have enough energy for it now. Yeah, that's a little awkward. But hey, you live and you learn, right? There we go. And yeah, the damage here is pretty solid, all things considered. So go ahead. Ooh, we're so close to finishing off there. Had I not flubbed it up with the mega rotation earlier, that would have, you know, finished it off quite a bit earlier. So alrighty, we've reached the Abyss 12 showcase with the more free-to-play friendly Flins, and I wanted to give this specific Abyss 12 a run. Also, before we go into the whale stuff, level 100 Pro Max Flins. This one here, on the other hand, is utilizing the Missive Spear from earlier. And we also have Ino. She is at Constellation 0 in this case. I did this run before I did the, you know, leveling up Ino's constellations and stuff. And I chose the second half Abyss specifically because the Abyss buff does not benefit lunar charge damage. And because of that, well, this it ends up being a bit more, I would say, like reflective of kind of his power level outside of just content that completely shills him in this case. And what I find really interesting about this is that I am also super used to doing Abyss under two circumstances. One with my super whale team, and two with my, you know, 4-star only clears. And because of that, this actually feels pretty weird to actually use a competent 5-star character, and it makes it a lot more tenable in comparison to 4-star only runs, whereas, like, you know, the whale runs are also just ridiculously absurd. And either way though, when we take a look at this, I also brought Kuki Shinobu here for Favonius Kuki, and this is for a quality of life, because typically, like, if you run Official or Auroron, well, what are you missing? You're missing Sustain. And Kuki here adds the healing that is very actually valuable for a lot of Abyss content where, you know, just enemies are trying to murder you and you don't want to learn every enemy's every single attack and, you know, practice dodging against everything they do. So fortunately, well, you know, in comes Kuki's healing, which actually does come in clutch, although for Kuki herself, you know, she's always at death's door. But fortunately for her teammates, she can provide the tenacity buff, as well as, you know, Favonius particles, which is great. But we can see here that Flins is clearing this stuff in very, very quickly, I would say. He feels absolutely fantastic to use as a DPS character, and having the ability to have flexible energy rotations where, you know, if you generate 60, it's all he needs. But if you manage to generate 140 during a rotation, then it just feels great, because he's actually one of the few characters that's like rewarded for generating more energy than like you than the bare minimum, right? For most teams, like, you know, Ayaka or whatever, you just generate a certain amount of energy, and then that's all the energy you really need. Any more energy than that doesn't really do much. In Flynn's case, if you're able to push yourself over that 60 energy to 140 energy, you actually get rewarded, which in my opinion is actually great character design. I think like maybe Sethos also did that, but I gotta be honest, I barely remember how Sethos works. But yeah, so he's one of the characters that, you know, is just after making the video and maybe trying him out a couple times here and there, it's been a hot minute since I've looked at Sethos. But yeah, so personally, this was like a long time overdue where characters are rewarded for excess energy that you generate, and in my opinion, Flynn's design, being able to do that is great character design. And what's also really great about Flynn's is that I feel like there's going to be a lot of team upcoming characters that will likely improve him significantly. We can see he's just absolutely dumpstering the Abyss 12 content, and he's also got solid AoE, like not like New Valette AoE, but you know, pretty good AoE if you can't tell. Like, you know, he's easily able to hit all those multiple targets. Now this next run is Fearless Stygian Onslaught against this annoying Fatui guy who has a ton of health but also has reduced electro resistances. And this is still with the Missive Wind Spear, free-to-play friendly-ish team, you know, above average artifacts for sure, but I would say the other characters are pretty accessible. And we have, for example, here I decided to bring Fischl for a bit more damage, a bit more energy economy, so that way Flynns can much more comfortably utilize more bursts throughout this and maybe get an extra mega burst or two throughout this fight. And yeah, as we can see, he's able to obviously easily destroy the shield that clearly shills Lunar Charge. Not the biggest fan of the way they kind of shill, you know, certain mechanics to this extent, but fortunately there are alternatives like just brute forcing with characters like Varissa or, you know, Electro Charge and stuff like that. But the reason why I want to showcase this with a Constellation 0 Refinement 0 is because unfortunately I didn't get to do it on the Creator Experience server in time. So instead we're going to take a look at it on live with, you know, kind of a low, I mean, I wouldn't say low investment, but with this level of investment on Flynn's. We can see here that it is able to pop up its second phase shield against us, but not a problem. Of course, Flynn's having multiple hits as well is able to kind of like sometimes destroy an extra layer of the shield sometimes. There you can see we actually got enough energy for a mega burst as well as to still squeeze out that additional mini burst at the end. Sometimes mid-rotation mega bursts are frankly even better than front-loaded mega bursts overall, in my opinion, because it saves on Flynn's field time. So yeah, effortless clear of the current Stygian Onslaught on Fearless with this level of investment. Are we ready to waste some money? You know it. Let's go ahead and bring Flynn's up to Constellation 6. So first we're going to activate all of his constellations. This is absolutely Flynn-sane, Flynn-cinerating all of our money right there. Next we're going to refine his weapon up to Refinement 5. Oh my gosh. Poor decisions were made. Poor financial decisions. Let's go ahead and now take a look. And finally, we are of course going to bring him up all the way to level 100. Let's see how much damage this bad boy can do. Okay, let's go ahead and do one quick nuke showcase. And I'm actually going to ask you guys a question here. I'm not really sure where to showcase him for a nuke showcase, in all honesty, because yeah, we need an enemy that can survive a bunch of hits from his burst or from his, you know, elemental skill, and that just doesn't happen, unfortunately. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do it on the Kagumenki for now. Kagumenki, of course, will, you know, remain invincible, and this should do a decent amount of damage. Let's go ahead and take a look. 2.2 million damage lunar charged hit. And of course, if we, you know, tap it with anything, now it will just completely die. So yeah, 2.2 million nuke on lunar charged. Unfortunately, I can't really come up with any good shenanigans in terms of ways to really jack up his damage. Maybe we could drop, like for example, Siege Ween as the Hydro character if it's raining. First try, guys. Am I right? Okay. There we go. Oh my god, it broke his thing already? It's actually kind of insane. Okay, but we are still quite a lot of damage short. Alright, let's take a look at a few more attempts of me getting hot and sweaty all over Flins in order to attempt to just shave off a few seconds to make him come clear this in just a few seconds faster. And we can see here that Flins is obviously able to dumpster the shield and everything like that. And I am just a bit short on energy as well as damage in order to one cycle this enemy in 20 seconds, which would have been his clear time had I just had those few extra rolls and honestly substats in my artifacts, because yeah, the artifacts are a bit lacking in this case for this specific purpose. But here is another team variation with Shieldin', which is quite interesting. And yeah, I mean, Shieldin', of course, doesn't really buff Flins' damage that much, and yet it still did okay, all things considered, with, you know, what we can see here. And really, see, some CM players were already able to cut this down to 20 seconds, and DHCWSP thinks he can do it in 16 seconds, which is actually pretty close, but he's going to need probably about 4 more additional substat rolls to go. But once he gets it, you know, Flynn should be able to clear this at a very, very fast competitive time to the other top meta DPSs. Of course, this enemy is very favored towards electro damage, and at the same time, Flins does not have his perfect team. I'm certain of it, because yeah, Siege Queen, like, what is she doing on this team? And yet she's one of the better characters to put on this team with Flins. So in terms of my Flinnal thoughts on Flins, he did live up to my personal expectations. I'm absolutely clearly dumpstering, you know, the Abyss 12, even though that specific side isn't that favorable for him, while also performing quite well in the new Stygian Onslaught, of course against the mechanic that he is clearly shielded for, but that is with, you know, a more free-to-play friendly, accessible team. And yeah, I mean, his performance there is a given how the mechanics shill for him. But yeah, that's just the way Stygian Onslaught is, in all honesty. It's just a big shilling of very specific characters for very specific fights. It is what it is. But Flynn's at a baseline is quite good, all things considered. And as you can see in the background we have playing is a preview for my next DPS showdown. We're going to do a major Electro one, at the very least, Flins versus Verissa. Perhaps we'll bring in Cyno, perhaps we'll bring in Chloron, and perhaps we'll bring in Raiden. I'm not quite sure the scope or the extent of it, but at the very least, Flins and Verissa will be featured in it. Let me know if you guys are excited for that. It's been a hot minute since we've done a DPS showdown. I mean, those honestly take me about an entire week to make. So yeah, unfortunately there's just been such a high volume of videos that I want to make over, you know, just like a couple DPS showdowns, which eat into literally 3 or 4 other videos that I can make in the meantime. But also let me know what you think about this format of video where I actually release kind of a showcase after the creator experience server, which is of course a different type of environment when it comes to testing and showcasing stuff. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Win to Lose, signing out.
お静かに交渉は終わり